Previously on my Limbus Company journey, we visited the seaside, where everyone had a wonderful time playing beach volleyball and eventually partying on a cruise ship. Unfortunately, our beach was a bit greener than usual and rampant with trash crabs, which left Don Quixote feeling pretty down. Meanwhile, Ishmael was stressed beyond belief, and Heathcliff, being the all-comforting creature that he is, tormented her, resulting in tensions boiling further than we've ever seen before. Eventually we set sail, doing our best to avoid calamities and follow the laws of the lakes, or we're dealing with pirates, the middle, still hate you Ricardo, and giant pallid whales. The canto ends with us sailing inside the whale, discovering the remnants of Ishmael's old crew, who journey with us to the heart of the whale, where after the clash of the ages, Ishmael starts to crack, before being rescued by Heathcliff, doing a fantastic 180 on their relationship from the beginning of the canto, finally giving Ishmael the opportunity to overcome her inner struggles and harpoon the heart of the whale, leaving Ahab behind. Now though, it's time to leave the lake, but unfortunately it's a long journey. Several days in, our sinners are all bored beyond belief, except Heathcliff, who seems a little bit more distracted than usual. In his hands he holds a letter from a woman named Cathy, who he holds very dear. As he reads the note, the whole bus boat leans in and gets a bit excited, discussing the likelihood that Cathy is interested in Heathcliff just as he is her, as well as Rhodia and Honglu discussing how to clean up Heath's hair and clothes. The letter is an invitation to a banquet to the manor of Wuthering Heights, which is where Heathcliff grew up. While he doesn't show his emotions as outwardly as Ishmael, it's clear that Heathcliff is very stressed as he starts beginning to worry about his appearance. Heathcliff is worried that he won't be able to impress Cathy, so one morning while everyone is busy with their chores, Don Quixote pulls Dante and Heathcliff to one side. Apparently Mephisto has a corridor of rooms that lead to all sorts of locations, and someone is on guard duty every day. While it was Don's turn, she noticed that the doors had symbols and began researching what they mean via a console, Yi Sang, and some books that he lent her. One such doorway has a symbol that she believes to be clothes, which is a perfect opportunity to procure some fancy suit for Heath, and there is obviously definitely no alternative motive here at all. Dante is not going to go along with this plan, because after the incident in the casino back in Canto II, he's not going to do anything reckless to disappoint the sinners. Right? I was genuinely surprised that Dante actually decided to go along with the decision, though I imagine after watching Ishmael stress so much in the last canto and being unable to help her in any way, might have had an effect on Dante, so now he's willing to take chances to help the sinners relax a bit more, while obviously getting Heathcliff a nice suit and Don Quixote some cosplay clothes. Stepping through the door takes us to a Christmas factory, where gnomes are seen wandering around until a large one approaches us, greeting Don for returning and bringing friends. Why am I not surprised that Don has already been through these doors on her own before? The giant gnome takes us off to a nice, quiet living room with a fire and says he'll be back with our gifts shortly. As we're waiting, a group of smaller gnomes walk through with a sledge filled with presents, though one of them seems to be wriggling and screaming for help. We decide to step in and take on the gnomes, but of course we've only got Heathcliff and Don, and unfortunately I've only got base Don, who I haven't decided to level up. Thankfully Wild Hunt Heathcliff is a monster and cleans house without issues, but this has got me concerned for future content. So I do think after I beat Canto VI, I'm going to wait until after Wild Purge's night, so that way each of my sinners should hopefully have an ID that I can level up. The giant gnome returns, but we slam a coffin into its face before rescuing what appears to be a child from the bag. Sadly, the rest of the bags just contain human remains. The child is called Crayon, and while she's explaining that she's from a local village that was raided by the gnomes, a gas begins to seep in, knocking our sinners and Crayon unconscious. Though as we saw in Canto I, Dante is immune to such things. Though instead of revealing that Dante actually has some insane hand-to-hand skills, he hides, before realizing he's in deep trouble because he can't do anything to defend himself or rescue our missing party members. A short while later, Dante begins hearing the voices of other sinners, and while initially he believes he's going insane, it turns out they're actually here and they've come to rescue us. Apparently, Don Quixote's questions about the symbols to both Faust and Yi Sang wasn't as inconspicuous as she once believed. So, when some of us went missing, they knew exactly where to look. Our team fights our way through hordes and hordes of gnomes, though of course, now we're missing Wild Hunt. Reinforced my ideas that I should hold off on pushing further into the game after beating this canto. Eventually we rescue the missing sinners and Crayon, before Santa himself shows up, brandishing the very clothes we sought in the first place. Sadly, Santa is absolutely massive, so even if we manage to get these clothes, they're not going to fit Heath. We took him down, only for a hunter from the village to save us before the Santa exploded in a foul smell. He gives us a gift and invites us to the Undercity before we go separate ways. Upon exiting the room back to Mephisto, Vergilius greets us, pressuring Dante to tell him who's at fault here.
당신의 판단이었나?
After Dante admits it was all his idea, Vergilius just smiles and lets us off the hook. I don't know if it's because Dante is the manager, so as long as it's him making a decision it's fine, or if Vergilius is maybe starting to give us a bit more leeway. A few days later and we're back on land and Mephisto has retaken its bus form, pleasing Sharon, who finally gets to vroom vroom once again. After a long drive we arrive at the Undercity, where once again our colours have been sapped from us by the local corporation. If you want colour here you need to pay for it, which unfortunately a man in a red hat has done. Heathcliff says that the man is clearly not rich or he wouldn't have just paid for one colour bag, and by spending all that money on the hat, he's just going to get himself robbed or killed. Just like that. Don is itching to go rescue the man and eventually we are allowed to do so. Upon returning to the bus we're told we have to go find someone, but we don't know anything about them or who they are, just that we need to find someone. So it's back onto the streets for us. It doesn't take long before we see a clash between two opposing clans, the Kurokumo clan and the Blade lineage. A member of the Kurokumo clan approaches us and threatens that if we don't leave, we will be considered an enemy of the clan. In typical Don fashion though, there's an injured woman on the floor that we just have to save. Heathcliff actually has incredible street smarts, so he tells us that if we've been approached by a member of the Kurokumo clan, we're already an enemy. No matter what we do here, we are an enemy. So we may as well take them on and rescue the girl, which Dante is happy to hear, because he's got a feeling that actually this girl is our target. One quick fight later and we rescue Angdu, and we take her to Mephisto to treat her wounds. Despite Heathcliff being so knowledgeable in the area, it's actually Yi Sang that steps up and does all the talking, as he spent quite a while in T-Corp Distillation, and Aang actually picks up on that while they're talking. Through this trust, we learn that Aang and the other followers of her mentor, Bamboo Hatted Kim, fled to a library, only to suddenly wake up and find themselves in the middle of nowhere, and in Aang's case, alone. After stepping back onto the streets to try find more information on the whereabouts of Kim, we're informed that a member of the after team has boarded our bus. It's clear that she doesn't like our sinners at all, and she is incredibly rude. Apparently there is a distorted figure that we need to take care of, as well as rescue some sort of artifact called the monolith, that seems to be the cause of the distortion. On a positive note, through this encounter we at least know where we're going, and Karen steps on it. Many waves of Kurokuma clan later, and Peculia, we reach Kim, and unsurprisingly, he's distorted, causing him to kill everyone around him, friend or foe. Now Kim is actually the first boss in the mirror dungeon that genuinely scared me. It was the first one I truly struggled against and he very nearly killed my entire run. So I was not looking forward to face him. And I always knew I was going to face him because let's be honest, he was way too impressive a boss to just be a mirror dungeon boss. So now that I don't have all of those mirror gifts, I am genuinely terrified. Oh, but I've actually gotten quite a lot better at this game since the last time. And I've actually really got a hang of Malfaust, which helps a lot. After we destroyed him once, we had to enter the monolith and do it all over again. And just like the previous fight, he went down fast. The after team shows up and bloody hell, these guys are stupidly massive and they're kind of scary to be honest. Either way, our job here is done and it's time to finally make our way to Wuthering Heights. On the way, Heath looks incredibly down, but thankfully Rhodey and Honglu have a surprise for him. It turns out they managed to actually sneak off and pick up a posh looking suit before fixing up his hair. Looking sharp, Heath, you got this. Though it's clear he's still nervous and gives the gang permission to knock some sense into him if the need arrives. Just before we step off the bus though, Vergilius sees us off and with a smile on his face says we're getting easier and easier to send off to do what we need to do. Whether we've earned his trust or maybe our sinners are just getting stronger and he knows that he can rely on us, I don't know. But for some reason hearing it from Vergilius felt extra good. The entrance to this enormous manor is a giant sealed gate, with seemingly no way to get in. Apparently when they were younger, Kathy would sneak out and let Heathcliff in. But despite his pleas, no one turns up. The sinners look at him confused though. How come he seems so rough and acted like he grew up so poor, when he lived in such a grand manor? Apparently he was never really part of the family, and he was adopted by the father of the house during a cold winter, as when he was out on the streets, he was destined to die. Heathcliff recants stories of how he never actually fit in, so often snuck out into the woods, befriending the local wildlife instead. And right on cue, a squirrel comes over to greet us. I felt so bad for laughing this, I'm really sorry, but Don Quixote is just one of those characters, and the voice actor does an incredible job. They all do to be fair, but the absurd character as Don just works way too well. Finally though, the gates opened, and it seems we're not being struck by lightning, as perhaps you need an invitation to be let on the premises. As we approach the doors, the flowers seem to catch our eyes, as they have colour. They must have been very important to the owner of the manor, but Heath corrects us and says they weren't, But before he can elaborate, the door opens, where we're greeted by all sorts of colours. Clearly, the owners of this manor were incredibly well off. It's here we're greeted by Nellie, one of the butlers. In fact, she's now the head butler. While butlers and maids are usually the ones who do the cooking and cleaning, these butlers are far more, and are considered fixers, whose contracts sometimes pass from generation to generation. They're not your everyday run-of-the-mill butlers, and crossing paths with them will lead to a hard fight. After repeatedly asking Nellie where Kathy was, and very clearly having the answer dodged, we're told to go greet the other guests, both of whom have a posse of their own. On the left is a gentleman called Linton, surrounded by his own butlers, and on the right is Hindley, surrounded by the dead rabbits, the gang Heathcliff was formerly involved in. The reunion isn't exactly pleasant, and harsh words are thrown around, as well as the odd fight from Hindley's gang of dead rabbits, not including their boss, Matt, or Matthew. Believe it or not, but Heathcliff is trying to be on his best behaviour, as Kathy never liked arguments. Speaking of, where is she exactly? And who are the oddly dressed fellows in the middle? They're members of the Oofy Association, a group of high-level fixers who specialise in overseeing contracts. While the whole room has caught on to the contract in question, Heathcliff is the only one not clued in, until finally hearing the words, Kathy's will. Despite his efforts to remain calm, Heathcliff loses cool and starts a huge fight before saying he doesn't believe any of it, not until he sees the body, which he's informed will happen once the Oofies can get through the reading of the will. For Linton, her husband, she leaves the manor. Clearly this news does not sit well with Heathcliff, and I'm starting to worry that he's about to cave someone's head in. And obviously it's not the manor that's the problem here, but the fact that Linton married Kathy. For Hindley, her brother, a paid trip to a clinic to help him with his drinking problems and other addictions. At least it's not just Heath who's clearly pissed off during this reading. Finally though, for Heathcliff, she leaves her golden bow on the 7th strike of lightning, and in an instant the power goes out and a strike of lightning occurs, though when the light comes back on, we're not where we once were. Nellie is quick to point out that the corridor isn't how it used to be, and there's clearly been a lot of work done onto the manor. Here we once again bump into Hindley, who again starts berating Heathcliff, pointing out how he's not changed a bit, and if he even cared a little bit for his old boss, he'd know that his name is Matt, and not Matthew. Confusing Heathcliff, as he knows for a fact that his name is not Matt. We push on through the ever-growing corridor, finding dead rabbits with glowing red eyes, who seemingly are completely incapable of communicating with us. Thankfully though, we're pretty good at getting our message across, but weirdly killing them causes the sound of mirrors being smashed, and demasking them just reveals ordinary townsfolk. Something isn't right here. Finally we reached Kathy's room, only to find Linton's maids tearing the place apart, angering Heathcliff, even more so when they claim to be cleaning the room. Apparently they've been sent to find her diary, but they don't know her like Heath does, who knows that it's hidden inside a pillow. After ripping it open we find a diary, but it's covered in huge ink splotches and is completely illegible, minus a few pages, and all that's left behind is some cryptic messages. Trying to process everything, we walk through the halls of the manor, until eventually we realise we've been going in circles. It's only when Heathcliff begins asking questions does the diary begin to respond, explaining how he needs to go to the basement to find his answers. This basement was actually blocked up years ago, but Heathcliff knows that it's hidden behind the fireplace. So off we go. Linton is seen guarding it, but when he learns that we can read the diary, he understands that's Kathy's way of saying she loved Heathcliff. And although disheartening, learning she never loved Linton, he steps out the way. Hordes of Pekatula are in our way, meaning a golden bow has to be near to cause the transformation. When we finally reach the bottom, a coffin with a bright gold glow is sitting in the middle of a wall. And Heathcliff immediately recognises it as Kathy. Blinded by his love, he fails to see the other coffins, with pipes coming from Kathy, or the Oofy Association seemingly guarding the entire place. What seems odd to Dante though, is the coffin is glowing because of a golden bow attached to it. But thanks to his inner ability, he was able to sense the lightning was being attracted to a golden bow, meaning there has to be a second bow in the manor. Heathcliff rushes down to Kathy and we follow. The presence of the Oofy here though is bothering us. The reading has taken place, their job is done. Why are they still here? That would be because this is actually a lab, and these aren't real Oofy, but are ex-Ring scientists under the lead of Isaiah, another former member of the League of Nine. We take care of the fake Oofy, but during this absolute chaos, Hindley takes his chances at killing our Heathcliff, before distorting and finally dying to our hand, causing another strike of lightning. Despite being Matt's boss, his death brings him great joy, as he's always wanted to watch him die, before he and dead rabbits attack us. The really weird thing is that Matt's skills are incredibly similar to Heathcliff's, though I guess if Matt was his boss, he probably trained Heath. During the fight, Isaiah took his leave, promising we'd see him again soon. A long talk with the defeated Matt later, and Heathcliff finally asks him, "What's your name?" "Matt," he responds. "Though I suppose he went by Matthew back then," he says. The mask comes off, revealing Wild Hunt Heathcliff. What? The experiments this lab is undergoing is to use a form of Yi-Sang's mirror, powered by Cathy and a double golden bow, to convert the poor folk of the Undercity into whatever IDs they want. While we're limited to Heathcliff IDs for the Sinner Heathcliff, there is no such limitation here. Unfortunately, the strain is too much for a very clearly unwell Linton, and he also dies, causing another strike of lightning. Linton, Hindley, and especially Wild Hunt Heathcliff made sure to constantly tell our Heathcliff that he was Cathy's murderer. When he left her without even saying goodbye, she got incredibly ill, became bedridden, and refused to leave her room. For the past few hours, whenever our Heathcliff talks, there's been this weird glitching noise, and at first I thought it was a problem with my headphones, so I tried to fix the jack, until eventually I realised what was about to happen. Thinking back to the warning Heathcliff gave us before we stepped off the bus, it was pretty clear that he is about to distort. While he destroys everything around him, we know we have to stop him, as he told us to himself. So I'm sorry, Heath. It hurts us more than it does you. Thankfully, I picked up a few other strong IDs besides Wild Hunt, or this could have been really, really bad. And while I want to feel bad, I'm in absolute awe at how insanely cool he looks distorted. Finally, we calm him down, and he returns to our lovable but grumpy Heathcliff. Although we did kill the enemy Wild Hunt, they just brought forth another, stronger one, as they claimed he is the perfect identity. This version uses the powers of the Wild Hunt to the fullest capabilities, bringing forth an infinite army of the dead, including the recently deceased Linton and Hindley. We fight and fight, while the evil Heath makes his way to the roof with the coffin of Cathy on his back. We don't know exactly what's going to happen when the two golden bows collide, but we know we cannot let it happen. It's impossible though. The army is unrelenting and we are hopeless to stop it. If only we were stronger. If only we were...
길이 보이지 않을 때, 어디로 어떻게 나아가야 할지 모를 때. 그래서 길잡이가 있는 겁니다. 단테.
Vergilius. Red, our hero, jumps in to join the fight, showing off his ludicrously overpowered nature, one-shotting groups of enemies at a time. He tells us to go after the other Heath and leave the Wild Hunt to him. And while we want to do so, we just can't leave one of us behind, which humans Vergilius, claiming that as we can see, he is not weak, before transforming to what looks to be some sort of Roman emperor, wielding his red glowing gladius. Regrettably, we left him behind, fighting our way to the roof. But we're too slow still. We needed more time. Time. Wait, Dante, can you control time? A sudden epiphany hits Dante as he slows everything besides our sinners down until we finally catch up and face off against Wild Hunt one more time. This time we get to use the time controlling ability in the fight, causing our enemy's speeds to drastically lower, while we once again face the ghosts of Heath's past. We push through, defeating enemy Heathcliff. And that is the end of Canto VI. I wish. Nellie quickly rushes over to him to restrain him, but something seems off, and in a moment of confusion, Nellie helps the Wild Hunt Heathcliff retrieve his coffin and flee up the stairs. She explains to our Heathcliff that she was shown a mirror one day, showing that her fate was to serve Cathy forever, to receive no reward or no gratitude for slaving away her entire life. In the mirror she saw that across all universes, Cathy's and Heath's were destined to be miserable. But if she could show this fate to Cathy, then the guilt that she causes Heath's misery would lead her to destroy every Cathy. For Heathcliff though, knowing that every version of himself would cause the death of every Cathy, causes him to become the Wild Hunt, travelling from world to world, killing Heathcliffs. We defeat Nellie before our Heathcliff says that the manor is technically his now, as Cathy, Linton and Hindley are all dead, and therefore he relieves her of her duty, causing her to fall to the ground in a mixture of joy and I'd imagine a lot of guilt, though once again the writers have somehow caught me off guard. Even though I said I wouldn't start liking any of the characters, Nellie did grow on me, and I didn't expect her to turn on us. Though I guess in Nellie's case, she isn't actually dead, she's just worse, a traitor. We push onto the roof for the final confrontation with Wild Hunt Heathcliff.
어딘가에 네 목소리가 들려. 아, 제발. 나야 히스클리프, 제발 나를 다시 받아줘. 우리와 함께 사라져라! 우리에게 안식은 없다.
지금의 너를 사랑해.
처음부터 모든 걸 정해놓은 채로 보았던 건가?
Don't you dare roll credits. Don't. No. What is that for a ending? Obviously it's not ever gonna be a happy ending, but like, she did erase every Catherine. Why? Shit. Who the shit are you?
당신이 정성스럽게 보살피고 있는 장미 한 송이가 있었어. 당신의 방은 그 꽃이 풍기는 향기로 가득 채워져 있지. 그러나 어느 날 당신은 긴 여행을 떠나 그곳에서 큰 정원에 도달하게 되고 당신이 보살폈던 것과 똑같은 장미가 수천 송이가 피어 있는 걸 보았어. 이유가 무엇일 것 같아?
There's nothing special about yours, but it's still yours.
맞아. 알겠어? 눈앞에 있는 나의 꽃을 사랑하는 방법을 그 순간부터 더 이상 수천 송이의 장미꽃들은 지킬 필요가 없는 거야. 이 별 사람들은 자신의 정원만을 꾸미기 위해 장미꽃 수천 송이를 가꾸면서도
I just realized Damien is unaffected by the memory loss.
그건 당신이 내게 양을 그려줄 수 있을 때, 그때 스스로 찾게 될 답일 거야.
What? With that, we have actually finished Canto VI, and if you're curious why I had such a reaction at the end of this one, while I wasn't expecting a happy ending, I wasn't expecting after all that Kathy to actually go through with it and delete every Kathy. I just expected after seeing a variation of Heath and Kathy that did end up together, she would stop the deletion process. I assumed she would still die, but at least her memory would live on amongst Heathcliff and the sinners, but I guess it's just another secret for Dante and Heath to keep. Without a doubt though, for me, this was the best canto. The pacing, the writing, everything was just perfect. I don't have anything else to say. It was perfect. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye bye.